welcome back to Flock Talk. Today I'm going to be teaching you how you can train your bird how to run on over and cuddle up into your hand. So this behavior is in response to the video that I just did recently on how I taught Newt to allow me to handle his wings cooperatively. In that video I utilized this behavior as a start button for Newt to say, yes, I would like you to handle my wings, and we can move forwards with the training session. A couple of you were having some trouble figuring out how to get your bird to present that start button behavior, so that is what this tutorial is for, is just to teach you how you can teach your bird to run over and press their side up against you as a means for the birds to say, yes, okay, I'm ready, you can touch my wing, let's progress. This tutorial is not for teaching your bird how to want to love cuddling. A lot of birds don't actually like cuddling with people's hands if it's just not in their personality. Who are we to really try and change that about them if that's not something they enjoy? There isn't really a whole lot of reason to specifically teach them to press themselves up against you and cuddle if it isn't an activity the bird actually wants to partake in. So this tutorial is not for that. This is just for teaching your bird how to press their wing against you so they can consent to having their wings handled. So the first thing I'm going to do is utilize target training. I do have a tutorial on this as well. If your bird is not target trained yet, I do recommend teaching that first, as it will make this whole process a lot easier. If you have not target trained your bird yet, or you just don't want to, you can also lure them with a treat instead. I just find it ends up being really busy with a lot of fingers in one spot if you do it that way, whereas the target stick gives you a little bit more leverage to work with here and kind of frees up some space when trying to orient your bird's body in the desired way. So all I'm doing is some quick warm-ups with Mia to make sure that she is focused and ready to go, that she has target training on her brain, that she knows the beak goes to touch the stick, that she's all good to go on that. Once she has shown me that she understands target training, has target training on the brain, and knows what I want her to do, I am going to introduce my hand to her. And Mia is a really comfortable, confident bird. I've had her for almost 10 years now. She is not afraid of my hands by any means, but if you have a bird that's a little bit more jumpy, this is a very important step to take. So all I'm gonna do is present my hand kind of laying flat on the perch, a little bit away from her, and just let her investigate it. If she chooses to walk towards it, that's fine. If she chooses to stay still, that's fine. I just want to make sure that my hand approaching her in this bizarre manner, where it kind of looks like I'm gonna grab her, isn't going to be threatening in her brain. So instead of putting it right close to her right off the hop, I'm gonna put it on like the other side of the perch and just give her a treat so she makes positive associations with my hand showing up in this new bizarre way. Over time, I'm gonna gradually move that hand closer and closer and closer, just so that way I don't have to have her sprinting halfway across the perch just to make it to my hand. It's gonna get tiring for her. It's just a lot of unnecessary steps. Since she is comfortable with me, I have no problem raising my hand over her like this a little bit closer. So I'm just gonna move my hand step by step closer to her back and work from there just to save us some time. If your bird is really jumpy or skittish with hands approaching their back, you can just as well do this tutorial and just have your hand further away so the bird does have to take those extra steps to get to you. It's just up to you and what your bird is comfortable with. So now that she's comfortable with my hand laying in this strange position near her body, I am now going to combine the target training and the open hand. And all I'm gonna do for these first few repetitions is just have my hand there and target her closer to it. I'm not asking her to touch me yet. She doesn't even need to be that close. I'm just starting to get those first few steps in where I'm asking her to waddle or side shuffle towards that hand. These are just the first beginning steps to get her comfortable moving closer to it. As we move along with her, I'm going to ask her to go closer and closer each time. So that way she's basically almost touching. She might not quite be comfortable touching yet, but she will be very, very close to it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the target stick from kind of in front of me is to actually kind of underneath the hand that I'm wanting her to be pressed against. This way she's going to start to kind of stretch her neck around to touch that target stick. And what's going to happen is her wing or the side of her body or even her neck might touch the palm of my hand by accident. And that is what we're going to mark and reward. So here's where we're starting to make the shift from rewarding her touching her beak to the stick to marking what we really want, which is we want her wing to be touching my hand. So as I'm targeting her over here and she's got her beak orienting towards the stick, instead of marking and using my clicker the second that she touches the stick with her beak, I'm actually going to be clicking for the moment that her wing touches my hand. Once we've got a good bunch of repetitions in here where she's very confidently running over and understanding that the wing touching my hand is what's causing the clicker to click, that's when we can start to phase out the target stick a little bit. And how I'm choosing to phase it out is I'm just moving it a little bit further, so it's kind of impossible for her to reach from where she is. I'm gonna place the target stick way beyond the other side of my hand. There is no way that she's possibly gonna be able to reach it. It's basically not something I want her to achieve anymore. It's just still there to help guide her in the right direction. We're going to repeat this process over and over and over again, and I'm going to gradually move the target stick further and further away. In these repetitions, I start to A, move it further away from my hand so it's harder for her to reach, and B, I'm going to lower it so it can start to kind of phase out of the situation here, and it's basically not going to be needed. What you'll also notice I am doing is every time that I'm setting us up for a new repetition, I am not presenting the target stick first. The first thing to go into the equation is the hand that I want her to curl into. And this is extremely important because you want that hand to cue the behavior. So you want it to be the first thing that starts this sequence. So instead of me presenting the target stick and then adding my hand after, I'm making sure that my hand goes in first. That is what is signifying the start of the behavior. And then the target stick comes into play. This will help you phase out that target stick even more quickly, because what will happen is your bird gets really excited, they understand what's happening, they really want to earn that treat, so they will start to run over the second that they see a sign that you want them to exhibit that behavior. And if the first thing for them to exhibit that behavior is the target stick, then it's going to take a long time for them to pick a different thing that you're doing to trigger the behavior to start. Whereas if you, from the get-go, present the hand you want them to curl into, that's what's starting the behavior right from the start. That's the thing they're going to key on to, and that's what's going to cause them to immediately start to run over into that hand, whether or not you have even moved the target stick once they get there. So once she's starting to kind of jump the gun, and she is now running over before I've even moved my target stick, that's when I'm really going to start phasing this thing out. And so I'm still presenting it, but it's off screen, you can't see it anymore. It is very, very low, it's basically not a part of the equation anymore, and I'm trying to see if she can use her own judgment and figure out what was triggering the behavior. If you start to phase things out too quickly, your bird will look very confused, and they'll sit there and they'll probably stare at the target stick that you've got somewhere else, or they might not move. And that's just your cue to maybe back things up a bit. They need a few more repetitions before they fully understand what you want from them and can start to phase out that stick. So now that I've got the stick fully phased out, you'll notice that Mia is not going quite as close to me anymore. She's not touching her wing to my hand anymore. And that's okay. Whenever you remove an important segment from a behavior, they backstep a little bit because something has changed, the environment has changed, they're a little bit confused, they're trying to sort out what exactly was earning them the treat in the first place. It's normal, and it's important for you to lower your expectations at this point. So yes, Mia was touching her wing to my hand with the target stick, and now that the target stick is gone, she's kind of hovering right in front of it, and that's okay, because she's trying to figure out exactly what of her body movements is earning the reward in the first place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch from luring, which is what the target stick was doing, and I'm going to move to a method called shaping and capturing. And what these are is I'm basically going to wait for Mia to offer the desirable behavior, and I'm going to mark any small approximations towards that end goal. So when I present my open hand, if she shuffles towards it and her wing happens to touch me, I will capture that moment and I will click and reward. If she shuffles towards me and pauses and she isn't touching me, I'm going to give her a second to kind of think and see if she can shuffle just a little bit closer. She doesn't even have to touch me, but just getting a little bit closer so she can start to figure out the pieces of the puzzle and learn that every time she moves a little bit closer to the hand, she earns a treat. And every time that we do this, she's going to move a little bit closer and a little bit closer and a little bit closer until she is squeezing her body up against my hand. This can be a time-consuming process, and shaping and capturing are two techniques that do take a little bit of precision on your part. If you are new to training, I would recommend target training first. It's a good way to really practice shaping and capturing, so that way you get really good with the timing of your clicker. So that way you are actually targeting the exact moment that you wanted from your bird, and your bird is able to have a really clear understanding of what they did to earn that treat. The more precise you can be with that clicker, the faster your bird is going to pick up and figure out what exactly you were wanting from them. And that about does it. Now the target stick is completely phased out of the equation. It's not there anymore. It's just my hand being presented over her that is triggering her to run over and touch her wing to my side. Now, as I did say, this is not to teach your bird to be comfortable with cuddling. This is just a way for your bird to consent to having their wings handled. So this is an easy way for you to present your hand to them, so that way you can do veterinary exams, you can do physical exams, you can check on growing feathers, make sure nothing's coming in funky, even treat like a broken blood feather or something, without your bird being stressed out about it. Because the alternative is that you grab them and they're really stressed out, and it's not a fun experience for anybody. This way you can present your hand and your bird can tell you whether or not they are comfortable with you coming and handling them, and you can work from there on your training and having them cooperate with the wing handling that we did in a previous video. So that is it for this tutorial. I do hope this cleared up some of the problems you guys were having with starting the wing handling with your birds. This is by no means the only way to teach this. If you find that having your hand this way is easier versus having your hand upside down like I did with Newt, by all means do whatever is going to be easiest for you and how your hands are going to work best in this situation. And your size of bird will also dictate how exactly you position them. With Mia in this tutorial, you notice I had the target stick going down below the perch, so she was more parallel with the perch itself, whereas when I'm doing the wing handling with Newt, I have my hand angled upwards, and then I am having him a bit more vertical. It's just what worked best for my size of birds in those situations. So by all means, fiddle around with it a little bit and see what works best for you and your bird. But that will do it for today, so thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye! Running over and pressing their side into me behavior as, sorry.